So you bought a CDV 700 Geiger counter, your classic Cold War civil defense detector that was found in the bomb shelters of your local Montgomery wards, your Sears, hospital, school, any large building that the government found suitable as a civil defense bomb shelter back in the 1960s. These were retired from service, as we know, probably around maybe the mid 1990s. I remember these things were starting to really hit the surplus market just before Y2K. They were sold on, a lot of radio shows, late night talk shows like Art Bell and Coast to Coast. You'd also find these things offered in publications, prepper publications of the time, like Shotgun News. The counterpart to this, the high range detector, which is not a Geiger counter, it is a ion gauge. These CDV 715s, they had a very strange marketing ploy to get people to buy them. For some reason, they called these the Elite Forces Geiger counter. I challenge anybody to find an old Shotgun News from the late 90s, maybe 1997-ish, and you will see a couple of ads listing these as the Elite Forces Geiger counter, even though it's not a Geiger counter, for a few $100s. And from what I'm understanding, these things were being sold like hotcakes back then. Probably made the guy who was selling those things rich. He's probably just driving around a Lamborghini right now, just laughing. But anyway, the popularity of these things peaked, I think, even beyond that. I think the CDV 700s really got popular about 10 years ago, probably because more and more of these bomb shelters were starting to be remediated and removed from the basements of a lot of these buildings. So they just hit the surplus market. They were starting to go for $100, $150 a piece, and people were just buying these things hand over fist. Plus, in recent years with the Fallout video game, these obviously became quite popular as well. So a lot of people just wanted them to have them on the shelf, and other people wanted these things for regular radiation detection, just to have it as a piece of equipment around the house that you should probably have. So anyway, the problem with the CDV 700s is you outgrow it, especially if you start really getting into radiation detection as a hobby. Let's say you want to go to antique stores and look for things like this, Fiestaware, which is mildly radioactive, puts out beta particles quite a bit. So you'd be able to pick these things up or detect them fairly easily with a probe like this, as long as you have the beta shield open. These could be used for prospecting, I suppose. If you went up to New Mexico or Utah in known areas, you could probably use it to look for radioactive deposits. The thing is that the 6993 tube that's inside the CDV 700 has its limitations. It's just not the most efficient for detecting those types of things. The background counts per minute on something like this, I don't know, if you're lucky, it might be 15 or 30 counts per minute, depending on where you are. If you're in an area where there's a lot of radon, it probably registered more. If you're in a place like where I'm at, it's probably maybe 15 or 30 at most. But it has its limitations. It's just not the most sensitive. It is what it is. It's a mass-produced, pretty cool-looking detector that is made for, just general contamination testing. Now, since you kind of outgrew it, what would be the next best detector to get? Well, this is my opinion. If you want to have the classic Geiger counter look, the lunchbox that you can hold, walk around with your detector, okay, I would say to migrate to the Ludlum Model 3. Now, the Model 2 looks very similar to this, but the Model 3 is nice because it does have some advanced electronics, because the Model 2s, I believe, came out in the 1970s or early 80s. The Model 3 has a lot better electronics, and I believe the Model 3s still might be made even today. So you can always buy repair parts. You can get these things calibrated fairly easy if you wanted to get them calibrated. Or, as I spoke about in another video, there is a way you can home calibrate these with a pulsar, and I will make a video about that at some point in the near future. Also, what's really great about these detectors is Well, there's a lot of great, but let's start off with this. It has a really nice volume to it. You can hear the clicks. Okay, this here, without these additional speaker units, you could barely hear any clicks at all with the headsets, unless you're wearing the headset. But it's just not loud. This has some really good volume to it. The other thing that's nice about this is it does have an on-off switch for volume. So if it starts getting too loud, you can turn the volume off. The newer Model 3s, I believe, even have a volume control. So you can have your volume on, off, or you can even just dial or ratchet back the volume a little bit just so it doesn't blast your ears out while you're doing whatever you're doing. It has a wide field of ranges from 0.1 to times 100. You can detect extremely low levels of radiation all the way up to some pretty significant levels. Just like the CDV 700, though, if you took this thing at ground zero, it's going to max out. It's still considered a low-level radiation detection meter compared to the CDV 715 here behind me. But it has another positive attribute compared to the CDV 700, and that is its interoperability with other probes. So these Ludlum Model 3s, they come with a wide range of probes when you buy these things. You can either just buy it by itself with no probe, or you can buy it with the Ludlum 44-38, which is the Ludlum equivalent of the 6993 CDV probe. It's a little bit more sensitive than this one, but not as sensitive as the 1B85 that we spoke about with the Bowel counter. The other good thing about this is I can just literally unplug the Ludlum probe and then connect the CDV 700 probe, and it'll work perfectly fine. So you can interchange probes with this. The thing, you could actually do that too with the CDV 700 if you connected or upgraded it with a an SHV connector or BNC connector. But what you can't do with this is you can't run a scintillation detector. You can run a highly sensitive scintillation detector with the Model 3s, by the way, and other things, which I'll get into here in a minute. So here is a classic in-window scintillation detector that detects both gammas and betas. It's really made for detecting beta radiation. They use these things in hospitals after people get iodine treatments and technetium 99M, I believe, where a lot of betas are put out, and gammas as well. But this will detect both. It's got a beryllium in window, and you can run this really easily with the Model 2. Now, I'm going to turn the volume off so I can hear. As we know, this is just a quick little test, but the Fiestaware or Bauer like this, uranium glaze, these are mostly beta emitters. So you can put this on a lower range. So you can see real quick how well it picks the beta up. Okay, and that is on the times 10 scale. And if I put that on the times 1, that's going to just max it out. You can hit the reset button and start over. And that's another thing that the CDV 700 has. It doesn't have a reset, so you actually have to wait for it to kind of calm down before you can start a new reading. Let's see, what else can we do with this? All right, so let's go ahead and turn that off. This also works quite well with a regular scintillation detector that would use, I don't know, something like for gamma spectroscopy. Now, you can't do gamma spectroscopy with a Ludlum Model 3, but you can run larger detectors like this. So unlike that other scintillation probe, this probe has a large 1.5 by 2.25 inch crystal in it. So here's a 1 inch by 1 inch crystal. and it's considerably larger. So with this larger crystal, you're going to get a lot of background counts compared to the few that you would get with this small in window. Just for comparison, the crystal inside this thing is about as thick and as large in diameter as like maybe a 50-cent piece. It's not very big at all, and it's directly right behind that beryllium window. So it's not going to give you a huge amount of counts. But this is probably going to max the scale even on the times 10. All right, let's turn that off. That's a lot of background noise right there. Okay, that's the times 10. So it didn't max, but times 1 definitely maxes out. And the times 10, okay, it's about 1/4 registering or deflection. But again, you can't run one of these on the CDV 700. The electronics just does not support what you have here. It's these things have dynode chains and a whole bunch of different type of electronics that support slightly different variants of high impedance voltage than this thing can perform. So the Ludlum Model 3 excels way better for using something like this. All right, so now you know that the Model 3 can run scintillation detectors while the CDV 700 cannot. There's a caveat on that, and I'm going to say real quick. There are variants of the CDV 700 that can actually register or use a scintillation detector like this. And I don't believe the Lionel, or maybe the Lionel was, I don't remember, but there is a version, either Victorine, Lionel, or one of the other types of CDV 700s can actually run one of these probes. But the problem is the background count of one of these probes is so high that it's just going to max your meter out immediately. You won't be able to really register anything. So it does you no good. But the range of your Ludlum Model 2 allows you to utilize one of those probes more efficiently, and it'll give you a much accurate reading. Okay, now we're going to get into something kind of unique. And I can't demonstrate it, but I'm going to show you. The Ludlum Model 3 can be used for detecting neutron radiation, which is common from various sources. One of the most common sources of neutron radiation comes from plutonium. So you can use this to detect plutonium. The other sources of neutron radiation are from beryllium, let's see, like beryllium and polonium sources, beryllium americium sources. They will put out neutron radiation. There's also electrical or electronically made neutron radiation through accelerators such as a fuser or a beam on target system. And you can detect that type of neutron radiation as long as you have like a paraffin moderator or a plastic moderator of sorts, and detect it with this quite efficiently. I've actually personally used this for detecting neutron radiation with extreme efficiency with, I believe, this tube and several others. These are Soviet boron tubes that were made, I believe, in the 1980s. I don't know what the part number is for this one offhand. I could find out, but I think it might be what's called a CHM16. I believe I have a number 14, and I might have a 21. But they are boron tubes, and they are specifically made for detecting neutrons. And the thing is that what you have to do with the Model 20, or I'm sorry, the Model 3s, is you get here underneath the calibration cover, and you can make some really simplistic adjustments to the voltage, which I believe these operate in what's called coronal mode, and they somewhere around 600 or 640 volts. I forgot exactly where, maybe 700, before they spark off and work really good for detecting neutrons. Those can be adjusted right here. There's also a threshold adjuster, which attenuates other types of radiation that might interfere, such as X-rays or other gamma sources. So again, You can turn this into a very efficient neutron detector, which you couldn't do that with a CDV 700 in your wildest dreams. So versatility for the Ludlum Model 3 is amazing when it comes to different type of detection arrangements. And I can't say enough good things about its ability to be utilized as a neutron detector. All right, so in conclusion, don't get rid of your CDV 700. I'm not saying to get rid of it. I love this thing. I'm never going to get rid of it. These things are just amazing detectors for what they are. And even if I never had a CDV 700 and I only had equipment like this, I would still buy one of these just for the nostalgia of it. They're just great detectors. If you want to upgrade and you want to keep the classic look, you want to get this. Oh, yeah, I guess I should also point out too, these things are built like tanks. These have been used in public safety. Fire departments use these things. Police departments use these things. I believe there were, I don't think there are anymore because they use a more upgraded version, but I believe the California Highway Patrol in the 1980s and 90s, there were specific units that used the Ludlum Model 3. And I don't know what kind of probe they used. I think they used a pancake probe actually with their system. I don't think they used the Ludlum 44-38, but they did have that. And I believe they might have used it in their commercial enforcement when checking trucks and things. So the Ludlum Model 3 is a readily available surplus item. You could find them on eBay and other types of sites that are similar to that. You could find them at prices anywhere from a couple $100 all the way up to $400 or $500. It depends. Sometimes it just depends if the seller even knows what they're selling. You can get these things pretty cheap. I got this one probably about 7 or 8 years ago. Or I don't know, like maybe $200, but I think they've gone up because people kind of realize what they are now. The Model 2s are going to be cheaper, but the problem with the Model 2s is the electronics are mostly from the 1970s and early 80s, so it's getting to the point where basic repair might be needed in a Model 2. You could even have some leaky caps already by now. The Model 3s, I believe, are even still being made, so you can get plenty of parts for the Model 3s. Okay, I think that is about it. If you got any questions, feel free to ask. I'm just kind of running out of things to say about the Model 3. So you want to upgrade from the CDV 700, I recommend getting a Model 3. If you